My name is Jenny Dominguez. I first came to Kendall Presbyterian Church about 30 years ago. Then I came back. A lot of things happened in between, and I'm going to tell you about it. I grew up in North Carolina in a place called Wilson, which was about maybe 40,000, and it was a good place for children to grow up. I started attending First Presbyterian Church. My pastor there was Dr. Harold J. Dudley. Maybe someone here has heard about him because when he retired from being a preacher, he became secretary of the North Carolina Presbytery Synod. And he was a great man. He was my mentor and mentor to a lot of teenagers at that time. Plus, he had a daughter that was a teenager, and so he had a lot of experience with kids. One summer, we decided, well, not myself, but a whole group of us decided to go to a retreat. And the church said, well, there is a crystal lake in the mountains of North Carolina that had cabins. And they have activities there. And it's very organized, very clean. And so you children, I'm going to send you home with this information, and you tell your parents, and then if your parents want you to sign up for it, let us know. Fully chaperoned. We'll take whatever parents want to go, and if not, we'll take elders, deacons, whoever will go. So we did that, and it was a beautiful place. The crystal lake was so clear you could see your toes if you looked down. It was just beautiful. We had arts and crafts, we had Bible study, and it was just a great time. And the night before we had to leave, somebody said, well, we haven't seen the mall. Now, of course, in this day and time, nobody would be excited if you said, we want to see the mall. But in those days, that was a big thing. So how are we going to get there? So we had canoes, and we took 2 canoes, and we paddled, trying to go across the lake to the mall. And as we got 3/4 there, I see Dr. Dudley. Remember, I told you he was our pastor. And all these chaperones lining the shore of the lake, waiting for us. They didn't have to say a word. They just made a motion, turn around and go back. So we hung our head and we went back. Nobody punished us. We got into the cabin. No doors were locked. There were no speeches made to make us feel really bad. So I don't know, God was really blessing us. I don't remember Moses writing down on the slate, thou shalt not row across the lake to see the mall. But we did it anyway. We're all sinners, so we went back. The next day was the last day. And that night, we went into the sanctuary. There was a little church there. And Dr. Dudley made his sermon. He didn't castigize anybody. He didn't fault anybody. He just talked about the Lord. And we had music. And then at the end, he said, if anybody wanted to come forth and give their lives to try to emulate Jesus Christ, please come forward. And I was sitting there. There was nobody on my right or my left, and I felt a little tap on my right shoulder. There was nobody there. But I looked to my left, and one of the ushers motioned to me to come forward, and I was just like a robot. I got right up, went forward, We made our promises. From then on, I felt like a different person, and I wanted to learn more about it. So that was my real beginning of knowing about God, His Son, Jesus Christ. And I've never forgotten that night. It was so sharp and clear in my mind. My life went on. I tried my best to keep my promises to God. It's very hard because, we're all sinners. We all are flawed. But I did try my best. And then went to college, and I met my husband. We got married. Long story, I'll make it very short. He was from another country. He was sent here by his parents to go to a military school. My daughters used to call him Mr. White Glove because he was such a clean person. And we fell in love. We went to the same college. It was called Atlantic Christian College. Small. Then he loved baseball. So the Washington Senators signed him up. They called him bonus babies. And so he got a nice little bonus, and we got married, and we played in Tucson, Arizona, Midland, Texas. He went up the ladder, so to speak, and then he hurt his shoulder. And so when he came home that night, and he was in pain, and he had it in a sling, we stayed up all night and prayed about it, about what is the best thing to do. Since he had a degree in business and I could get a job anywhere, we decided to come to Miami because it was closest to his country. Joe went to work for FP&L, and he worked there 35 years and then retired. He's in sales. The only thing I did was we had 4 daughters, and I was mostly a stay-at-home mom until they became teenagers and started to go to college. And then I went to work for American Airlines in sales. We had a neighbor in Pinecrest. I don't know if any of you remember their names, but they were a wonderful family. They went to church here. Their last name was Saub. It was Mary Ann and Ted Saub. And they invited us to be their guest. And I came to this church. We sat right over there. We filled up a whole pew, and I would give my girls the coloring book and the crayons to keep them quiet because they were like 3 years old, 7 years old, 10 years old. So they took up the collection that day, and the gentleman that did it said to my husband, he said, "Mr. Dominguez, you have a beautiful family." And he looked at him and he said, "Took me a long time to make." My girl says, "Mom, you got to put that in." I didn't want to, but they said, "That is so cute." I felt at home here. Tony Martin, who was my Sunday school teacher, maybe some of you remember her. The Reverend was Reverend Bland. I'm sure some of you remember that name. And it was just a really, really good feeling being here. My oldest daughter was married in this church by Reverend Bland. And then somehow they fell in love with Catholic boys. So then I felt kind of by myself, lonely, not having the girls with me. But Joe and I, so we started visiting the Catholic Church. I never felt at home like I do here. So I kind of drifted for a while, never forgetting of my beliefs and my promises that I made in that at Crystal Lake. But it was a few years that my husband was not well. He had several things wrong with him, so I took care of him, and he passed away 7 years ago. And I felt like I was adrift, and I said, I'm going back to the Kendall Presbyterian Church one Sunday. And I did, and it was like coming home again. And the people were so warm and friendly and kind, and they were always trying to get me in a conversation, and I just felt like everyone was my family, and I still do. And I want to thank everybody, especially Pastor Kent, and that's my story.
Okay.
I don't know what do
Well,
people usually
say for